trade agreements with our neighbors and with our strategic partners to ensure that the economy is diversified and strong. And then the final one is also to support SMEs and champion the cause of SMEs, both in government and internationally, and as well as across other areas.
Through concerted fiscal measures, the Buhari administration saw the establishment of the Development Bank of Nigeria (DBN) to boost access to credit for micro, small and medium sectors. Refinancing high-cost short-term domestic debt with relatively cheaper and longer-tenured external debt, asset tracking and management projects, fiscal sustainability plans and budget support facility for state of the federations who were mostly bankrupt and could not pay salaries.
We increased the amount of spending on infrastructure from 10% of expenditure to 30%. So we pump money into roads, into rail, into power. We pump money into those things that would really grow the economy. We began to work very hard on the state governments because we recognize that in many states, once the state government can't pay salaries, all activity really stops. You know, once a school teacher doesn't get paid, headmistress isn't getting paid, you know, even basic education would stop. So we stabilized the states. We helped them with bailout funds of their salary arrears, and we also helped them by addressing the issues of the Paris Club refund, so they would have some money to do and keep things going during the dark days of the recession. And then when things began, obviously, to improve, we're now reaping the benefit.
In 2017, the Nigerian budget, tagged Budget of Recovery, gave room for more capital spending as government planned to spend a way out of recession. Government in 2017 prioritized continuation of the 2016 plans, but adjusted to reflect new additions made in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan (ERGP). The ERGP is a medium-term plan focused on rebuilding a resilient economy, and already the focus labs have come to an end.
The first set of labs we conducted were in three broad areas. One was agriculture and transportation. And the reason is that we found that some of the constraints of agriculture has to do with transportation, being able to get the produce to the market and to the consumers. So you had agriculture and transportation. That was one set of labs. We had another set of labs that dealt with manufacturing and processing, including solid minerals. That was another set of labs. Then we had a third set of labs, power and gas. These were the three areas that we conducted the labs in. Our target for this first set of labs was to generate 25 billion US dollars, or its equivalent in Naira, worth of new investments. That was our target. We didn't quite make the target, but we achieved 22.5 billion US dollars.
The key execution priorities of the ERGP include stabilizing the macroeconomic environment, achieving agriculture and food security, ensuring energy sufficiency in power and petroleum products, improving transportation infrastructure, as well as driving industrialization, focusing on SMEs.
The ERGP is about increasing local content, transforming Nigeria to a country where people actually are working, where we create jobs, the economy expands. That is a self-sustaining economy. In fact, in the words of President Buhari, which actually illustrates what the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan is all about, he said, we grow what we eat, consume what we make, and produce what we use.
I think we've made considerable progress. As I'm sure you know, we now have a Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council that is focused on just solving the problems that people face doing their businesses every day. and that our citizens face. And that council is what led to the improvement in ease of doing business rankings for Nigeria, which had been going down for 10 years. For 10 years, Nigeria was deteriorating. But what we now have is a situation where Nigeria is adjudged one of the top 10 reforming countries in the world, and people are beginning to notice. We have also established an industrial council, an industrial policy and competitiveness council that is working with the private sector to solve the problem that industrialists face. We're also implementing special economic zones to help people who manufacture and who produce so that the cost of production will come down. And as you may know, we've been working with SMEs to provide funding for them, to make sure that they get capacity building and training. And we're working on areas like vocational training and skills acquisition. So there's a lot that is going on, and I hope that the evidence is also clear to our people. And of course, this is what is translating into the improvements we see in the economy.
With the necessary mechanism in place, creating 15 million jobs by the year 2020 is being targeted.
There has been that complementary role between the fiscal policy and the economic policy, especially the ERGP. That was a very wonderful crafted document, and if it is fully implemented, we'll see sustainable growth. So kudos to that document.
The deliberate effort to diversify through agriculture has seen incomes of farmers rise, with more people looking into that direction.
In
the past, we only used to farm during the rainy season. We began to hear that it was possible to farm in the dry season, and we were shocked. The population of rice farmers in Allah has risen tremendously. We farm mostly rice and maize, along with our households hold, and make a lot of gains. We thank God.
A hectare of a cereal crop. Typically, that hectare will cost about 200,000 to produce, let's say, 5 tons. 5 tons per hectare at an average cost of what? Of 100,000 naira per hectare. The value of the output, that will be about 500,000. You spend 200,000 to produce 5 tons. You have an output of 5 tons that's worth 500,000. That is almost 150% return on the investment. This is for the raw material. Imagine you aggregate that raw material. You have got to put it together, which requires labor. You have got to store it, which requires labor and investment. You have got to process it, which requires another investment and labor. If you are to aggregate from that single hectare, the multiplier effect that will come out of it, that will be almost a ratio of 1 to 10. For every single farmer you support at the primary production level, downstream the value chain, you will see about 10 other individuals making a living out of that chain.
Good news to handlers of the economy.
Everything has changed. I think the thing that's changed the most is the attitude of Nigerians. I think we've been through a really very difficult time. People are a lot more sober now than we were before. We're less flamboyant, we're less impressed. Before, people were talking about how many private jets we have. Government was talking about private jets. That's not the business of government. Now we're talking about how many free school meals we've provided, or how many young graduates we've employed, how many roads we've done. The metrics by which we're measuring our success as a nation have changed. And I think that's really, for me, very rewarding. We've become more of our brother's keeper, and less, let me show you what I have. We're less ostentatious as a people, which I think is a good thing. It's recreating some of the fabric of our society, where we care for each other, where we look out for the poorest.
Remaining on a positive path, the proposed 2018 budget is the largest ever for the nation, at 8 trillion naira, with a rising population to fend for. Nigeria's population is estimated to be the 3rd largest in the world by 2050.
We have laid down a plan. We have the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, and we're actually tracking the plan. For the first time, we're actually implementing. We have said what we will do. We're doing what we said we would do, and the results are proving that we're doing what we said we would do. Whether it's at the level of my ministry, at the level of the economic team, or at the level of the government overall, I think all the evidence is pointing that things are improving. And I think ultimately, it's good for us, and we thank God for it, that the economy is getting better every day. And Nigerians are beginning to acknowledge that as well.
Nigeria targets to consolidate on gains recorded in 2017 and propel accelerated growth as contained in the ERGP.
This government is about the poor and about the needy, about the people. And I think that's a big, big change. And, you know, as far as the economy is concerned, things are much better. The reserves are improving. Inflation is coming down. Growth is back. We've stimulated some industries. Take fertilizer, we were importing before. We've revived so many blending plants. We're blending fertilizer here. We're growing rice. I'm always optimistic anyway, because I think that God himself put this government here at this time. It was a very difficult time for the nation. So I'm always optimistic, and I think we just have to keep on working very hard at the things we're doing.
For the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, consistently churning out reform policies and initiatives will no doubt continue to stabilize the Nigerian economy.
Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stover. Now, Section 10, Subsection 1 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended empowers the Independent National Electoral Commission to embark on continuous voter registration. Now, it is this provision in law that informed and enabled INEC to embark on continuous voter registration to capture people who've just reached the eligible age of 18 years and also capture those who were not able to register before this time for one reason or the other. Now, INEC says about 12 million people were registered in the exercise that commenced in April 2017 and was to have ended on the 17th of August 2018 before the current 2-week extension, which is expected to end by the 31st. Now, the extension shows a positive response nationwide, but INEC at a meeting says it needs to suspend the exercise in good time to enable it complete the procedures required for data processing, production and distribution of the permanent voters' cards, PVCs, ahead of the 2019 general elections. Now, with only a few days to the August 31st deadline, just about 3 days actually, and calls for further extension, will INEC extend the registration? Now, how successful has the exercise been nationwide across the 774 local government areas? And this and more would be the focus of Tuesday Live tonight. But first, let's get to see this report by Timothy Yusuf.
Section 10, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended empowers INEC to embark on continuous voter registration. The exercise is designed to update the voter register with the registration of citizens who turned 18 after the last voter registration exercise, or those who couldn't register in previous CVR exercises. In the current political dispensation, the exercise commenced in April 2017 and was to end on the 17th of August 2018. INEC says it registered over 12 million voters between then and the 17th of August this year. The Commission, in its wisdom, extended the continuous voter registration CVR and revalidation exercise to August 31st, 2018. This decision, according to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is to enable more eligible registrants maximize the opportunity. National Chairperson of Grassroots Mobilizers for Buhari Osinbajo 2019, Fatima Mohammed Koni, is among many Nigerians and civil society organizations that advocated for the extension.
I want to thank INEC for honoring our letter. Nigerians, come out and collect your voter's card before the last day.
We
permanent voter cards, officials in Kaduna State are worried over the poor attitude of prospective voters to come forward and collect their processed PVCs, as hundreds of thousands of processed PVCs are yet to be collected according to findings. Compliance level is observed to be, however, high in Edo, Delta, and Ondo states, as Nigerians who just attained 18 years of age and others continued to besiege registration centers to be registered. The major issue bothering the people is need for more personnel and equipment to fast-track the process. From Borno State, the Independent National Electoral Commission says it has so far issued about 70,000 permanent voter cards to eligible persons across the state before the two-day public holiday to mark the recent Eid al-Kabir celebration. In Sokoto State, non-collection of permanent voter cards is a major challenge in the ongoing exercise.
The extension gives people the opportunity to be able to go back home and register for those who are not in their various states. Like in my state, in Delta State, we were able to mobilize people to go back home, most especially the youths.
It's only now that everybody is rushing down to go and register. You want to ask, what have we been waiting for? That's why.
With about 3 days to the expiration of the exercise, where are we now? Is the Independent National Electoral Commission satisfied with the ongoing registration exercise that is key in the successful conduct of the forthcoming general elections? How can this opportunity be further maximized by the people, especially with some collected permanent voter cards remaining a huge burden on INEC? Issues relating to transfer of permanent voter cards, lost or omitted PVCs are usually part of challenges encountered by some Nigerians. Can these issues be addressed during this extension? Findings show that arrangements have been concluded to cater for internally displaced persons, some of whom might even have lost their cards as a result of forced relocation. What is the special arrangement to accommodate this group of persons?
An officer of INEC who is going to give you a PVC card in the CVR center is different from the one who is going to attend to you if you are a fresh registrant. The officer who is going to attend to you is different if you are transferring your vote to another place.
Those who are already registered at one time or the other are no longer qualified to do so, but their allegations of non-compliance as double registration remains a challenge. Has anyone been caught? If not, how can they be fished out?
We've seen situations where even Mike Tyson in the US was a voter in Nigeria.
INEC and civil society organizations have enjoined political parties and other political stakeholders to strengthen sensitization of the electorate on the need to turn out for the exercise. The extension, according to many Nigerians, portends a good development for the 2019 general elections and democracy in general. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
And that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's introduce you to our guests. We'd like to welcome to this program Honorable Aishatu Duku, who is the Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Electoral and Political Parties Matters. Thanks for being with us here tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, Nigeria.
We're also joined by Dr. Chima Amadi, Executive Director, Independent Service Delivery Monitoring Group. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we expect to be joined on this discussion by the Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. He'll be joining us as we go on with this discussion. We do expect him to be here any moment from now. But first, let me acquaint you, as usual, with the procedure of this program. At the appropriate time, you can get to be part of the discussions in the studio. The various platforms will be on your screen. We advise you take advantage of them. However, as we always say, if you're one of those who will be phoning in tonight, do us a favor when your call gets through, turn down the volume of your TV set. And the best way to know your call is through to the studio. You'll see your name appear on screen. Once that happens, it means you're through. Just go straight ahead to the point. Don't bother about the greetings. Just go straight, make your comment or ask a question. And of course, our guests will be willing to take up whatever issues you might raise tonight. So, welcome once again to NTA Tuesday Live. The matter here is about the continuous voter registration exercise. And let's just start by assessing this current registration to see how it is. And we start with you, Honorable. Your assessment. What is your assessment of the current registration exercise?
Well, so far, it has been a very big challenge. All of a sudden, the queues, became too long. And after 16 months of the commencement of the exercise, people are going to the centers with their mats, with food, sleeping over just to make sure they are registered. So as it comes to an end, it is becoming more Herculean because, of course, the machines are slow and the personnel too are getting overworked. So, but they are trying their best. I have been to a couple of centers, to check and to see what is happening. But so far, so good.
We must raise this issue. Is it something about the Nigerian, or what would be the reason? This started in April 2017.
Yes.
And you're not seeing the numbers you're seeing now.
No.
Why would people just ignore this exercise until a deadline is mentioned and it's close to it? It happens over and over again. What is it about the Nigerian that makes that Nigerian ignore important exercises like this until it's almost closing? Because we're wondering, the numbers we are seeing now, if those numbers had been turning out since April 2017, we wouldn't be seeing that now.
Of course. Yes, and you have already started the Nigerian factor. We always live until the last minute and then we get to rush. However, this has to do with voter education. And I must say, part of the amendment we proposed is completely taking that away from INEC. INEC has nothing to do with voter education. It is an electoral body. So voter education should go to agencies like you here, the NTA, and of course National Orientation Agency and other agencies that have that people are now realizing the importance of registering, because that is the only way they can make their votes count, and that is where they are sleeping in the registration units, and so I think